You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Happy New Year! We're on January 3rd. You can still legally say that until January 15th. I'm Dan. EJ Hradek joins us in the saddest place in Canada right now. It's a great city. I went to school in Ottawa. It's a great city. I went to school there. I would move there in a second, but at the World Juniors, it's not a happy place. EJ.
No, it's not a happy place right now. But it's a great city. You're right. I've enjoyed my time here so far. It's been a while. It's funny, Dan, when you live longer, you like. I was here a lot. Like when Yashin played here. Like, I mean, that was like, and then they had the whole contract thing with Yashin. I remember coming up and doing an interview with him, and he didn't play for like a whole year, I think, if my memory serves me correct, in a holdout thing or something like that. It was just kind of crazy, but it had been many years since I'd been here. So, it's really a nice city. But unfortunately, it's a city of sadness right now after, Canada was eliminated in the quarterfinals by Czechia after like one of the strangest tournaments they've ever had, because they lost to Latvia, which was kind of mind-boggling, in a shootout. And, they didn't really play. They lost to Team USA. They didn't really play well. They had patches where they played well, but then they just kept shooting themselves in the foot with really bad penalties, and just didn't work out for them.
And they're getting hammered over their roster selection.
Yes.
How you left off the guys that were drafted in the top 10. And everyone wonders what the Team Canada brass's love affair with Dave Cameron is.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That is a really good question. I don't know if there was, there's some kind of video that I don't know about. But, I just shake my head. Dave Cameron made some really odd decisions in this tournament, not practicing after losses several times in a row, and challenging a play that he looked like he had literally no chance to win the challenge. And, it wasn't a virtuoso performance by the coaching staff either.
And the poor Ottawa Senators have to go on a massive road trip.
Yes.
It's like does San Jose still do the rodeo road trip? Do they have to do that every year still?
I don't know. I know it's like LA this year is the team that, because like they're doing work in that building out in LA. I don't even know what to call it anymore. I mean, it was the Staples Center, and it's crypto.com. But isn't that like crypto.com? Aren't they gone? I don't know what happened to them. Do they still have
crypto rights? Big. All my money's in crypto, EJ.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. But anyway, LA, they started the season on like a 7 or 8 game trip, and then they did another one, and yet they're playing well. So, who knows how it works out, but Ottawa's on like a 9 game road trip that was separated by the holidays. So, they'll be back at some point.
No renovations in Toronto for the Leafs. So they don't have to go on any extended trips, although they were in New York, playing the Islanders for the 3rd time. And well, I went to the game. They lost 6-3, and then they played them again just before the end of the year, and now they start off the year by playing the Islanders.
Can't see enough of Lou.
That's
Patrick
right.
Waugh and Lou.
There's nothing like firebrand, exciting end-to-end New York Islanders hockey.
That's right. So, they should probably get on the schedule more. I'm sure the fans are clamoring for more of those tight checking games, but the Leafs won back-to-back games against the Islanders, and they're finding ways to win. It's a little bit of a snapshot of their season this year that, whatever adversity comes their way, they seem to be able to find ways to get to win the game and get points. So that's really good news.
Yeah, you're into 2025. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're atop the Atlantic, ahead of the Florida Panthers. All in all, despite the fact that Auston Matthews has played, a quarter of the games, this is nothing but good news for this franchise.
Yeah, and that's going to be the thing to manage, right, is over the next couple of months getting ready for the playoffs. Is like, this is worrisome, Matthews' situation, because it seems to be something that is chronic or, continues to be problematic. And you have the Four Nations thing coming up, and, he's really excited about and looking forward to try to play in that. That's going to be some high intensity hockey, albeit for 3 or 4 games. But, that's going to be a thing they have to manage. The good news is, as you point out, they're sitting at the top of the division right now. So they have a little bit of a cushion, and they'd find ways to win even without him in the lineup, which is great. but it is going to be an ongoing concern, and try to keep them, try to have them healthy when it matters, come, the stretch drive and into April, May, and hopefully June.
How has the NHL been able to stick to their injury reporting, which is archaic when compared to the NFL, where it is super specific? The NHL, it's beyond vague. No one has a clue what body part of Auston Matthews is injured.
Yeah. It's amazing because because of the world we live in now, where everything gets reported more, but the fact that we have the gambling on these games, I mean, you would think that because of that, there would have to be more specificity to injuries and like when they're going to be out and how long they're going to be out, because again, any appearance of impropriety is something that would be bad. So I think at some point, I mean, you go to like which goalies are playing and, what guys are playing and what's wrong with them. I think that's all stuff that eventually is going to have to be more carefully or just more widely parsed out. And, people are going to have to know about it, because you're right. In the NFL, it gets very, very specific, and that's a physical sport too. I mean, the argument people make with hockey is if people know what the injury is, people will go, other teams go after you, and that's probably true. But, in the NFL, it doesn't seem like it's a cakewalk either. And, the players, everything gets put on the injury report.
There's also no rush to whatever injury it is because of the way the Leafs are playing. So I'm sure the message being sent to Auston is take all the time you need.
Yeah, that would make sense, right? I mean, that's what I think anybody, that wants this team to have their best players at the right time of the year would say, because they have been playing well. They have been piling points up. They've been winning games. The biggest thing this year is they win games they're supposed to win for the most part. Like in years gone by, like they would have lost that game to the Islanders. They would lose games to teams they should beat. And they're finding ways to win right now. I mean, like I've said the whole time, I like their team a lot better now. Being here in Ottawa at the World Juniors, like all the managers, I just saw Brad Treliving actually ran into him last night after the Canada game. And, I said, yeah, another win for you tonight. And he was joking. Yeah, ho hum, getting, just another win. And he was obviously joking about it, but they're finding ways to win games. And, I think before the deadline, they'll look for a few pieces that I think they know they need. And hopefully you could stay healthy, get your goalies back. It's worked out good. Like Stolarz was really good when Wall was out. Now Stolarz is out and Wall has played very well. So things have kind of fallen into place for the Leafs through the first half of the season. But this season is so darn long. You just got to be hitting it at the right time.
So you mentioned the ho-hum, another win, which makes me still center on the Auston Matthews injury, because I'm not getting off that. Okay. Because at what point do fans say, is this concerning for the rest of his career? Because that's how poorly this has been handled, because it leaves speculation to run rampant.
Yep, it does. You're right. And that's the thing with any of these type of situations, speculation, especially in Toronto. I mean, for a hockey player, a player of Matthews' stature in that city, right. Speculation does run rampant. And
when you fly to another country, he flew to Switzerland.
That's right. He went overseas. That's a red flag. That's usually
people said he was going for a hair transplant, and no one squashed the rumors.
Well, his hair is looking better these days. I
was defending that one. I'm like, no one chooses in season for a hair transplant.
Yeah, that's true. I think only Gordie Howe did that. That was a long time ago, though. I mean, and they weren't covered. The things weren't covered in that way when Gordie was playing. So, listen, I mean, I don't think it's going to change. Do you think it's going to change? Do you think that they're going to have a press conference and Austin's going to come out there and give a full disclosure of what his health situation is? I don't see that. They're going to have to manage it, and I guess they're going to have to deal with all the crazy speculation that comes with it. I don't love it, but that's just, I don't see it changing.
How do we force change? Because I know Gary Bettman loves to rule with an iron fist, so he loves the no report of injuries. And the PA's not fighting for it, I'm sure. So there is no one within the NHL calling for change of how injuries are reported.
I think you're right about that. There, no one is. I think the only way that something will be substantive change is, again, now that there's gambling on these games, which is legalized, and you're going to see more of it moving forward. I think there might be times when things happen where guys play when they weren't supposed to play, or guys underperform because information wasn't out there. There's going to be a push, I think, from maybe the public who are wagering on these games that, they're going to want more information. And if that drumbeat gets loud enough, I think it is something. I mean, let's face it. Gary Bettman is not going to be the commissioner of the National Hockey League forever.
No, he is going to be. He's going to live to be to 200.
Well, you might be right there. I mean, and Lou Lamoriello will always be the general manager of somebody, and he will limit information as it goes. But, I mean, I just think that's the only thing that's going to force change to me, Dan, is the drumbeat from people who are, wagering on these games, and cause the embrace is there. I mean, that's just the way the world is. These sports leagues have really embraced the idea of, the people betting on the games, because it just brings more interest to the product, and it's a way to generate more revenue. I think that's the area in which change will be forced, but it won't be forced by those of us in the media yapping about it, because we've been yapping about it for a long time. Ever since Pat Quinn said lower body injury, or whatever he said at the time. I think he was the first guy that said something vague like that. And now that's just common thing, right? UBI, LBI, right? That's common terminology in terms of talking about injuries in the NHL.
EJ, you're a funny guy when you said that they would listen to the public outcry.
Well, they don't listen. They won't listen. You're right. Yeah. They won't listen. But that will become something that will force change eventually. If there's incidents, if there's situations where it looks like there was something improperly done, and when you have that look of impropriety, that's when teams, and that's when you have to act, because you can't have that in professional sports, the idea that, maybe something is amiss or a foul with these games. And that's where you'll have it. And I can't sit here and predict what that might be, Dan, but I think that's when you see change in these things. When, we've seen that in the other sports where there have been situations where, in the National Football League many, many years ago, guys were suspended for a year for things when gambling wasn't legal. There's more people involved in this now. There's a lot of money at stake. I do think at some point in time, if there's a situation that casts doubt on whether or not the games are on the up and up, I think then you have to act. So that's the only thing for me that will push it forward, because you're right. There's not anybody within the power structure of the National Hockey League that's looking to change that right now.
EJ, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're into a new year, 2025.
All right.
I want you to pick your biggest surprise team to this point in the season and your biggest disappointment.
Well, Nashville has got to be the biggest disappointment, right? I mean, they're near the very bottom of the league. And, I did feel that they got the duplicate pieces, right? They went out, they already have Forsberg, right shot winger. They went out and got Stamkos, who's more of a winger than a center at this stage of his career. Right shot guy, and then they went out and got Marchessault. So now they have three players that are relatively similar. They're still very thin down the middle, so much so that Stamkos has kind of moved back into center now. So I didn't know if that was all going to work, but I certainly didn't think they were going to be near the very bottom of the league. And, so that's been, kind of shocking to see how bad that's gone. And what's going to happen there? They have 3 first-round picks in the draft coming up. I thought they were going to use those as draft capital to go out and try to really add to their mix. But now it seems they're more likely to try to rebuild than to try to pump up what they have there. As for, somebody that's really surprised in a good way, I mean, the Washington Capitals come to mind. I thought, they played really well last year, for what they were. And they got in the playoffs with a team that wasn't really that good. And then they made some moves in the offseason. They took some shots at things. And Spencer Carberry has turned out to be a really good coach, as many people thought he would be. And the moves they've made have all worked out. And Alex Ovechkin, I mean, he got hurt. He come back. He's scoring again. I mean, he may break that record this year, even with missing time, which is kind of crazy to think. But, the way that the Capitals have played, I think would probably be the biggest, I thought they'd be okay. I thought they would be a little bit better maybe than last year. I certainly didn't think they were going to be up on top of the division. And I guess another, disastrous situation now is the Rangers, right? I mean, that's been,
disaster.
It's just been a mess. And, they've had key guys underperform, and they've had a mess with handling players and trading guys away. And, this is a team that was in the conference final last year. And in game 4, they were leading the series 2-1 and were in overtime and had a chance to take a 3-1 lead, lose that game, end up losing the series. But boy, it's been bad so far this year. And, behind the scenes, I can only imagine the things we hear. I can only imagine it's even worse than that because, it's been really mismanaged there. So I don't know how things are going to play out there. Mika Zibanejad is our number 1 center. He's underperformed now for about 18 months. He's been kind of on a steady downward kind of plane. And that's, when your number 1 center is underperforming and, and they don't have real depth behind them, this is where you're at. Fox got hurt last year on defense, and he's not been quite the same guy. And they're just way too easy to play against most nights. So they beat Boston last night, but that was because Jonathan Quick played really well and made a lot of really high-end saves in that game. So it's a struggle there. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out because that seems like a soap opera this year with all the things that are going on behind the scenes and the way it's been managed.
And before I let you go, do you know anything more about what's being reported on Jonathan Toews making a return to the NHL?
Yeah, I read that interview that he did. That has got to be his story. When you think about it, Dan, we're just talking about underreporting of things, right? Like there's a guy that was the captain of a 3-time Stanley Cup champion in a major U.S. market. And he kind of just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And he kind of just has this the long COVID and these other issues that he had. And he talks about it and he's gone to India now for these, and think about in any other sport, in a major city, like a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's Kansas City is not Chicago, but he's a multiple-time champion, right? Suppose he just all of a sudden couldn't play and nobody really knew why and he didn't really do any interviews. And then he just disappeared from the scene for several years and then kind of emerges in some long, wordy print interview and talks about the idea of maybe coming back now at this stage of his career. I mean, at this stage of his life, it's just a crazy story to me. And it's one that, again, it's shrouded in mystery. And this goes right back to what you were saying about Auston Matthews. When Jonathan Toews left the Hawks that first year, all there was speculation. I heard so many different stories about so many different possibilities of what was wrong with him. And it's really unfortunate because, I think, these athletes, we come, whether, we root for them, we root against them. They're people that, he went through something pretty significant. I'm just surprised that they didn't want to have clarity on that. And, I don't know what's going to happen. All I would say is I hope Jonathan Toews is healthy. He was a great player to watch. And, if he comes back and tries to play again, it'll be a story for sure. But boy, oh boy, that is a mystery of all mysteries. What's gone on with him over the last several years.
Of all the pro sports, hockey players can disappear the easiest.
Yeah.
You need only ask any current LA King that lives in LA. They are playing and they have disappeared because they say if you never want to get recognized, play for the LA Kings.
Yeah, well, you may be right about that. There are probably a few other places too, but you make a good point. Crazy.
EJ, enjoy our nation's capital. Visit the War Museum and visit the National Art Gallery. Both highly recommended on my part.
All right. Apparently there's going to be a lot more travel and, tourism in those places over the next couple of days.
As there should be.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.